Picture this. A squad of trained soldiers surrounds a half-dead kid on a mountain in the middle of the night. Guns drawn, blades out, full confident this reject is about to stop breathing for good. And then this kid, the same guy they just threw off a cliff, the same guy whose own body is allergic to the very energy that powers this world, opens his eyes glowing a sickly demonic green and flicks a couple of pocket change coins into the air. Before a single soldier can blink, those coins tear through their bodies like paper. Throat slashed, chest caved in, and the one guy who pulls a gun watches his bullet literally dissolve into toxic smoke before it even leaves the barrel. This is Kim Tae-ju, the guy everybody called trash, the reject who was never supposed to wake up, and he just turned a murder squad into a pile of melting corpses using martial arts that haven't existed for 300 years. But before this man became everybody's worst nightmare, he was the single most disrespected human being on the entire planet. To understand how a walking medical condition turned into the deadliest thing breathing in the Samhain Empire, we gotta rewind to the moment his own family signed his death warrant and the universe decided to intervene with the most insane power up in history. The year is 2032, not our timeline obviously, because in this version of history, humanity got absolutely olded 300 years ago. Back in 2026, the sun just decided to clock out one day. No warning, no memo, just a full-on eclipse that dropped a pillar of raw mana energy straight onto the earth like God accidentally hit the wrong button. And the welcome gift for this new magical era, 90% of every living human being turned to dust on the spot. Cities collapsed, climates went haywire, and everything people spent thousands of years building got erased in a single afternoon. The planet essentially rage quit civilization and started a new save file. Fast forward 3 centuries and the survivors did what humans always do. They adapted, rebuilt, and immediately started being terrible to each other again. Society came back, but so did a whole new nightmare. Mana didn't just give people superpowers, it also spawned monsters and mutant poisonous plants that turned every forest into a death sentence. And because humans can't help themselves, they built an entire social hierarchy around who could use mana the best. At the top, you had the awakened, walking demigods with magical tattoos on their faces that basically scream, "I'm better than you." And at the very bottom, lower than civilians, lower than dirt, you had the rejects, people whose bodies couldn't process mana at all. Not only were they powerless, the energy was literally killing them from the inside. It's like being allergic to oxygen in a world where breathing is a competitive sport. Now enter Kim Tae-ju, son of Brigadier General Kim Unbang, a masterclass awakened and one of the powerful men in the Samhain Empire. You'd think being born into that kind of bloodline would set you up for life, right? Wrong. Tae-ju hit the genetic lottery in reverse. Eldest son supposed to be the heir, and his body rejects mana like a bad organ transplant. To his family, he's a parasite. To the military, he's a joke. And to his stepmother, Honda Mitsui, a cold-blooded snake from a powerful Japanese family, he's just an obstacle standing between her biological sons and the family inheritance. This woman has been waiting for Tae-ju to just die on his own for years. But the kid had the audacity to keep breathing until 29, and that was apparently one birthday too many for her patience. So she did what any loving stepmother in a fantasy empire would do. She called up her family's private hit squad and ordered a military assassination on her own stepson. Which brings us to Mount Seorak, where Tae-ju is sprinting through the forest, a squad of soldiers on his tail. The kid doesn't even know what he did wrong. He's gasping for air, lungs on fire, sweat pouring down his face, and his body picks this exact moment to betray him, and he collapses right at the edge of a cliff like the universe wrote a comedy sketch about the worst possible timing. First Lieutenant Jang Indong catches up and looks down at him. He mocks Tae-ju for having another seizure. The entire platoon surrounds the kid. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Tae-ju screams at them, begging to know why this is happening, and Jang just laughs. To him, a reject is garbage that should have been taken out a long time ago. He draws his sword and says, Tae-ju is just getting on Lady Mitsui's nerves by continuing to exist. That's when it clicks. This isn't random. This is a hit job ordered by his own stepmother. Raises the blade and swings with everything he's got. The steel connects. Blood sprays. The impact launches Tae-ju's broken body right off the edge of the cliff and into the abyss below. Jang smiles, satisfied, and casually mentions that the family estate is now clear for Mitsui's sons. Just like that, the soldiers walk away thinking the job is done. But here's where the universe starts writing a completely different story. Tae-ju's consciousness doesn't fade to black. Instead, he wakes up in some kind of cosmic void. Spinning around him, stars everywhere, and he's just floating there with a sword wound in his back, wondering if he's dead or tripping. Then he hears a voice. An old man grumbling about how he spent his entire life trying to achieve immortality and somehow ended up in a place that looks like his home got blended with an alien dimension. This old man floats over to Tae-ju, tells him to get up and show his face, and the second he sees the kid's features, his eyes go wide. This is Tang Gonek, the absolute poison demon, head of the Sichuan Tang clan, the single most feared human being in the entire history of the Muram world. This man was the undisputed master of poisons and hidden weapons. When a demonic cult tried to take over his world, he personally melted the heavenly demon, the final boss of an entire dark army, into a puddle of toxic sludge. By the end of his life, this man was the undisputed ruler of the martial world, and everyone was terrified of him. He spent his final years meditating in the mountains, trying to reach immortality through something called ethereal ascent. spent. During that process, his soul left his body and went searching for the next level of existence. And by some absolutely insane twist of cosmic fate, his soul merged with Tiju's. Same soul, different worlds, separated by centuries. Tang Gunok starts reading Tiju's memories and sees everything. The bullying, the mockery, the family that treated him like a stain on their legacy, the stepmother who wanted him dead, the military that used him as target practice. Every single humiliation this kid has endured plays out like a highlight reel of suffering. And Tang Gunok, a man who literally dissolved demon lords for a living, gets genuinely angry on this kid's behalf. He looks at Tiju and realizes they share the same soul and the same potential, but fate dealt them completely opposite hands. So the old man makes a decision right there in that shared mental space. He's giving Tiju everything. Centuries of combat experience, every poison recipe ever created, every hidden weapon technique, every assassination art, the complete encyclopedia of being an absolute nightmare in human form, a bridge of pure energy forms. Between them and hundreds of years of deadly knowledge floods into Tiju's brain. The old man tells him straight up, you too will become the absolute ruler of your world. Then a blinding flash consumes the entire void, sealing the deal forever. Tiju snaps awake on the forest floor, blood still dripping from his forehead, body still broken from the fall, but every single thing Tang Gunok knew is now burned into his brain like a downloaded hard drive. This wasn't a dream. This wasn't a hallucination. He now has the complete martial arts mastery of history's deadliest poison master, and he's lying in a forest, surrounded by the exact thing he needs to activate it. Poisonous herbs everywhere. The kid is shaking, on the verge of death, and he starts grabbing fistfuls of toxic plants and shoving them into his mouth like a man eating salad at gunpoint. Tastes like battery acid mixed with regret, but it's his only shot. He sits in a meditative trance and starts converting that poison into raw energy inside his body. The technique is called the Primordial Chaos Absolute Poison Spirit Art, and it does exactly what it sounds like. It turns poison into pure power. Green energy surges through him and literally shatters the invisible chains that had marked him as a reject his entire life. His eyes glow with a terrifying new light. Kim Tiju is no longer a reject. He is something this world has never seen before. And Jang Indong just moved to the top of his list. Full moon over Mount Siorak. The soldiers are still out there with flashlights, combing the dark forest for Tiju's corpse. Their orders are simple. Find the body, confirm the kill, go home. Jang is getting impatient because apparently finding one dead kid in a forest is too much work for a trained military squad. Then one of the grunts shouts from the brush, they found him. The squad surrounds the area, guns drawn, and finds Tiju just sitting on the ground, alive, calm, completely unbothered. Every soldier freezes because nobody survives a fall like that. And something about this kid feels completely different now. A strange green light is flickering around his body, and it's not mana, it's something else entirely. Tiju isn't pulling energy from the world around him. He's generating it from the poison in his own blood. Jang is baffled because this should be physically impossible for a reject. He tells his men to stop staring and finish the job. A soldier lunges forward with a glowing mana blade aimed at Tiju's neck. The kid doesn't even open his eyes, he just waits. The blade slices through the air, inches from his face, and then his eyes snap open. He sidesteps the attack like it was coming in slow motion. The soldier's face goes white when he realizes he just whiffed on a stationary target. The rest of the squad watches the air around their former punching bag grow heavy and toxic. Tiju looks down at his own hands, feeling internal energy for the first time in his life. Clenches his fists. With this power, everything changes. No more running. He stands up, looks at the men who tried to murder him, and gives them a cold smile like he just bumped into co-workers at a coffee shop. Hey, Lieutenant, great to see you again. Jang tries to hide his nerves behind trash talk, pointing out that Tiju doesn't even have an awakened tattoo on his face. The kid just scoffs. In this world, your rank tattoo is your entire identity. Users at the bottom, masters at the top, and your face tells everyone exactly where you stand. Jang is just an initiate rank, which in martial arts terms makes him a third-rate thug with a fancy title. Tiju tells him his power isn't all that, and the insult hits so hard that Jang's face twists with rage. Tiju pulls out a few coins, sliding them between his fingers like playing cards, and tells the squad he's about to return the favor for what they did on that cliff. Green energy starts surging around him. Jang laughs at the coins and asks if the kid hit his head on the way down. He doesn't realize he's staring at the most dangerous weapons in the entire forest. He orders the full squad to charge. But before the coins come out, Tiju makes his very first move. He reaches behind his back and pulls out a single knife coated in a dark, sickly green energy that hums in the air like something alive. This isn't a grand technique. This isn't a finishing move. This is a man who has never once fought back in his entire life, taking his very first swing. He dashes forward, laid low, and slashes at the nearest soldier before anyone can even register that the reject just went on the offensive. The cut connects and the soldier drops, staring at his own wounded disbelief as the green energy starts eating through his armor like acid. Tiju looks down at the knife, grips the blade tighter. Alright, now he knows it's real. Time to show them what else the poison demon left behind. Tang Gunok's memories are guiding his every move. He flicks his wrist and sends the coins flying. This isn't just a throw. This is the poison blade art. The coins slice through the air like razor-edged leaves, and the soldiers don't even see them coming. The projectiles rip through mana defenses like they're made of paper. The first wave drops instantly, throats and chests pierced before they can even scream. Before the rest can react, Tiju is already among them, moving like a ghost. He pulls back his hand, green energy condensing into a concentrated spear of pure death, and slams his palm into a soldier's chest. The blood-poisoned palm sends a lethal dose of toxin straight into the man's heart. The impact is explosive, launching the soldier into the trees as the poison begins eating him alive from the inside out. One survivor screams for his commander. Their easy cleanup mission just became a slaughterhouse. A panicking soldier levels his handgun at Tiju and screams at him to die while pulling the trigger. Tiju doesn't even flinch. He just stares down the barrel with eyes colder than a freezer. The gun fires. A flash of green light erupts and the bullet dissolves into a cloud of toxic green smoke before it clears the barrel. He's standing in the middle of absolute carnage, surrounded by dying soldiers, and to him these so-called elite troops were too slow to qualify as a warm-up. He steps through the dirt and blood, his presence getting heavier with every second. A dying soldier gasps, desperate to know what kind of power Tiju just used. In this world, mana is the only source of strength anyone has ever known, and they can't comprehend anything else. Kaiju clarifies that even awakened beings are nothing but flesh and bone when it comes to poison. Ranks and titles don't make you immune to a slow, agonizing death. Jang is on the ground shaking, black bile filling his mouth. He's confused because without an awakening tattoo, using any kind of combat skill should be impossible. Tiju just chuckles. Calling the legendary arts of Tanggunuk a mere skill is an insult to the greatest poison master in history. He leans in closer and asks if the toxin melting his insides feels as filthy as the betrayal he committed. The lieutenant breaks completely. He's sobbing, begging for his life, calling Tiju Lieutenant Kim like they're still on the same team. Instead of mercy, Tiju grabs the man's face with a grip like a hydraulic press. Green energy starts burning through Jang's skin. He lifts the traitor off the ground by his throat. The lieutenant's body is convulsing as the poison takes full effect. With his last breath, Jang tries to play the connection card, choking out the name Mitsui before a fresh wave of black blood cuts him off. Tiju's eye glows with a menacing green light. He doesn't care who the mastermind is. They're all going on his list. He stands alone in the dark forest, surrounded by bodies. This is only the beginning of his payback tour. He survived the impossible. He has the power to back it up, and he has absolutely no intention of going down quietly. Now, while Tiju is out there rewriting the food chain, let's check in on the family that started all this. Back in the Poo domain, General Kim Unbang is sitting in his fancy office getting briefed on his son's status. He's surprised to hear Tiju has been officially discharged. The officer gives him the sanitized version. There was an assassination attempt during a mission at Mount Siorak. Lieutenant Kim barely survived, but has since gone missing. As for Jang's squad, the official story is they were wiped out by monsters while trying to flee. A nice clean lie that covers everybody's tracks. The general doesn't need anyone to spell it out. He whispers the name Anda Mitsui. He knows exactly who orchestrated this. She went to her family in the Kyushu territory to arrange the whole thing, and her impatience finally forced her hand. But here's where it gets truly disgusting. The general makes a cold, calculated decision. His territory needs the Mitsui family's financial backing too much to cause a scene. So for the sake of his domain and his other sons, he decides to cover the whole thing up. He tells the officer he'll handle it and dismisses him. The heavy doors click shut, and this man doesn't show a single shred of guilt. In his mind, Tiju was a dead man walking anyway. Surviving to 29 was already a miracle for someone who can't handle mana. He tells himself Tiju should just live whatever time he has left in freedom, far from the family that just threw him away like expired milk. Tiju is standing on a mountaintop overlooking the free city of Garai with a heavy backpack strapped to his shoulders. He's been moving in silence since the mountain. No family, no connections, no identity, just a man with a head full of ancient killing techniques. The porter boss, a chatty old man, asks if this is his first time seeing the city. Tiju plays it cool. 300 years ago, Garai was just a tiny town in what used to be South Korea. But after the Samhin Empire took over and the surrounding mountains filled up with magical beasts, the emperor declared it a free city. No taxes on monster loot, blind eye to illegal activities, and suddenly every hunter, mercenary, and desperate soul in the empire flooded the place looking for quick cash. Now it's a booming metropolis, a paradise for anyone chasing money, and a graveyard for anyone who gets careless. The boss warns him the city is crawling with dangerous criminals, and Tiju just laughs it off. Here's the thing. After barely surviving an assassination from his own family, Tiju cut every tie he had and came here specifically because the law is weak in Garai. It's the perfect place to hide from his father's radar. And even better, the surrounding mountains are packed with poisonous beasts and toxic plants, which is basically an all-you-can-eat buffet for someone running the poison spirit art. He's disguised as a lowly porter, carrying gear for hunting parties to pay the bills while he secretly trains. The irony isn't lost on him either. Honda Mitsui's murder attempt is the exact reason he has this power. She literally created her own worst nightmare and doesn't even know it yet. But for now, he's broken wheat by his new standards, so the porter life it is. During a job, the boss points out the strongest member of their group, Lee Hannel, a regular rank hunter which is one step above most in this world. She looks young but carries herself like a pro. But something is off. Her mana is acting strange and she's breaking into a cold sweat. And her eyes roll back and she drops to the ground right in the middle of the trail. The group panics. A mutant 3-striped mosquito was hovering nearby, and apparently this little bug is everybody's worst nightmare. One bite and your mana vanishes, leaving you completely unconscious and defenseless. Entire hunting parties have been wiped out because of these things. Fire Mage in the group steps up, summons a massive fireball, and turns the mosquito into charcoal. Crisis averted for the bug, but Lee Hannel is still out cold on the ground. Tiju looks down at the fallen hunter and recognizes the symptoms instantly. The poison matches something from Tanggunuk's memories perfectly. He discreetly places his hand on her back, his energy glowing green, and quietly draws the toxin out. She wakes up with a jolt, confused about what happened, and nobody notices that Tiju just performed a medical miracle right under their noses. The team decides to to retreat since they don't have proper anti-mosquito gear. But as they turn to leave, something rustles in the brush behind them. Everyone freezes, weapons come out, hearts stop, and from the bushes hops out a tiny white rabbit. The tension snaps instantly. Everyone groans, the fire mage sighs, and the lead hunter laughs while wiping his forehead. False alarm, guys, let's head back. But before he can even finish that sentence, a massive blade tears through the air and slashes him across the chest. Blood sprays everywhere, and the mage barely has time to register what happened before a heavy foot slams down. An entire battalion of orcs emerges from the trees, not random wild monsters. These things are organized, moving in formation like they've been doing this professionally. The forest just turned into a war zone. The mage doesn't hesitate. She fires up her magic and tells everyone to grab the wounded and fall back while she holds the line. The porter boss starts hauling injured teammates away, but Tiju stays behind with his eyes locked on the green skin monsters. The boss looks at him like he's insane. Porters have no business in a fight like this, but Tiju doesn't budge. He hands off the unconscious Lee handle to the boss and tells him to go while he covers the retreat. The boss doesn't have time to argue. He runs, begging Tiju not to die. Tiju watches the orcs carefully. Their formations are way too tight for common monsters. Something is wrong about this entire situation. The mage is fighting for her life, throwing fire lances to keep the first wave back, but one orc breaks from the pack and charges straight for the retreating porter. She raises her staff and summons a wall of fire that cuts off its path. The orc burns to a crisp, but smoke fills the clearing, and in that moment of blindness, a massive elite orc looms behind her. Its single red eye glows through the smoke, and its axe is already raised for the killing blow. Now we gotta take a quick detour to the immortal realm because Tang Gunnock has been up there for about a month, and he's got some thoughts. Turns out achieving immortality isn't exactly what he imagined. The celestial realm isn't a paradise. It's a prison for legendary masters, and every single person trapped there is completely out of their mind. Sword immortals flying around laughing like maniacs, blowing up floating mountains for fun, picking fights with each other for literally no reason. Tang Gunnock is standing there watching this chaos, thinking he wasted his entire mortal life chasing this. But he's still connected to Tiju through their shared soul, and he genuinely hopes the kid can find some happiness with the power he inherited. He warns that Tiju will need to reach the 7th star of the poison spirit art to truly survive, and promises to find new techniques to pass down if fate brings them together again. Right in the middle of this sentimental moment, a chunk of rock smashes into the back of his head. A sword immortal is hovering nearby, taunting him about his petty dagger techniques. Tang Gunnock's face twists with rage, and he launches himself at the swordsman, screaming about how he'll kill this crazy bastard. Back on Earth, the elite orc's axe is coming down on the fire mage's head. Tiju screams for her to get down. A green flash tears through the air at blinding speed. A hand appears behind the mage, delivers a sharp chop to the back of her neck, and knocks her out cold before the axe can connect. Tiju stomps his foot into the ground, stabilizes his stance, and decides this is the perfect moment to test his wide area hidden weapon technique. Flying coin technique. A rain of golden coins descends from the sky, glowing with lethal energy. The orcs don't stand a chance. The dagger sliced through them like a lawnmower through wet grass, painting the forest floor in every shade of red. Tiju lands in the center of the clearing, fist pressed to the earth, and looks around. He didn't expect to wipe out an entire battalion in one shot, but the results speak for themselves. He glances at the unconscious mage and realizes he accidentally knocked her out while trying to save her. He debates what to do for about 2 seconds before deciding to bail. If word gets out that a porter with no awakening tattoo soloed an entire orc army, it could reach his father's ears and his whole low-profile operation goes up in smoke. Starts packing up, but then realizes he's got a problem. Hidden weapon techniques are incredible in combat, but absolutely annoying when you have to pick up all the evidence afterward. This man is literally on his hands and knees in a blood-soaked forest, collecting golden coins like a kid after a piñata party. He finds the last one embedded in a tree trunk, and pinned right next to it is a 3-striped mosquito still wiggling its legs. His expression shifts instantly. He examines the bug and realizes this isn't even its natural habitat. Something is very wrong about Mount Jiri right now. The real danger of this mosquito's poison isn't the bite itself, how it dissolves the internal energy inside the host's body, causing their mana to scatter and leaving them completely helpless. Tiju connects it immediately to the energy-dispersing toxin common in the martial world. The problem is that nobody on Earth has ever found a cure for this kind of poison, but Tang Gunnock knew the formula. If Tiju can identify the exact components, he can create an antidote using local herb, and there's only one way to be absolutely sure about the composition. He brings the mosquito to his lips and eats it. This man just raw dogged a poisonous insect for research purposes. He swallows, processes the toxin through his system, and licks his lips. The components are a perfect match. As long as he can find the right herbs on Mount Jiri, he can produce the cure. His eyes gleam with pure greed. I smell money. But his dreams of pharmaceutical domination get cut short when a heavy presence slams into his senses. He looks up and his face drops. A massive elite orc covered in runic tattoos with eyes glowing blood red looms over him like a building made of muscle and hatred. This thing is on a completely different level from the ones he just wiped out. It growls 2 words: human, kill. Tiju recognizes it immediately. This isn't some grunt from the horde. This is an awakened elite beast that most hunters only know from horror stories. First the mosquitoes showing up where they shouldn't be, then a coordinated orc army, and now this. Mount Jiri is turning into a death trap. The elite orc doesn't bother with conversation. It lunges forward and brings a house-splitting axe down with everything it's got. The strike misses Tiju but carves an actual trench into the solid ground. Tiju leaps back, recognizing this thing as expert rank. Time to stop playing around. He reaches into his bag and launches his strongest hidden weapon attack. The single golden blade streak through the air in a concentrated cone of light and connect dead center on the orc's chest. But instead of blood, there's just a shower of spark. The coins shatter on impact like they hit a brick wall. Tiju's eyes narrow. His strongest projectile technique didn't even leave a scratch. Throwing multiple daggers didn't work at full power. Spamming weaker ones would be straight up suicide against this thing's natural armor. The elite orc is breathing heavy, locked onto Tiju like he's the only item on the menu. So Tiju ditches the coins entirely and starts pumping dense poison energy into his palm. The blood seal poison palm, the signature move of the absolute poison demon himself. Mid-sprint, he shakes his head in frustration. He retreated during a fight. Him, the guy carrying the memories of the most dangerous man in martial arts history. He can practically hear Tang Gunnock roasting him from the immortal realm right now. The truth hits him like a truck. He got way too cocky after deleting those regular orcs. Green toxic flames engulf his entire body as he charges forward with everything he's got, breaking the sound barrier and repeating the absolute creed of the poison demon. The orc swings its axe. Taiju's toxic aura meets it head on. The collision shakes the entire forest. A green shockwave shatters trees in every direction like the whole mountain just flinched. This is a full cinematic anime clash, except when the dust settles, Tiju is the one spitting blood. The impact rattled every bone in his body and he's flat on his back in the dirt, coughing up mud. The orc pulls its axe back. This monster is standing over him with the posture of something that has never once questioned its place on the food chain. Tiju is lying there half conscious and he realizes his palm strike was way too shallow. He swallows the pain, cracks a smile, and mutters that if it's gonna be a slugfest, he's fine with that. The green aura flares back to life, brighter and more intense than before. Then something insane happens. Thousands of threads of poisonous energy explode outward, wrapping around the orc's body like a net made of pure death. The threads tear through the beast's armor and skin in the blink of an eye, shredding it from every angle simultaneously. The giant monster collapses, just falls over like a building losing its foundation. And Tiju is standing there in complete disbelief because he genuinely did not expect that to work. He scratches his head, trying to figure out how he just turned this thing into confetti when his strongest technique bounced off its chest 30 seconds ago. Because he just heard footsteps, and those don't belong to orcs. A group of heavily armed adventurers walks into the clearing and finds the aftermath of a one-man apocalypse. Orc bodies everywhere, and standing in the middle of it all is one kid with no awakening tattoo on his face. The man leading the group is wearing a sharp suit in the middle of a monster-infested forest, which is either incredibly bold or incredibly stupid. He stares at Tiju, notices the blank face where a rank tattoo should be, and asks flat out how a nobody without mana managed to massacre an entire horde by himself. This is La Yonghak, Master Rank Hunter, head of the Nagadan Guild, and one of the 3 most powerful people on the autonomous committee that runs Garai City. The aura coming off this man is suffocating, and Tiju immediately knows he cannot afford to show his cards. Not here, not now. So he does what any intelligent person with a world-ending secret would do. He starts acting pathetic, he bows his head, puts on his best helpless civilian face, and right on cue, the porter boss comes sprinting through the trees screaming his name. The old man doesn't even check on Tiju first. He runs straight to the cargo and starts inspecting the merchandise because priorities are priorities. By time, Tiju points at Lai Yonghak and tells the boss that this noble gentleman arrived just in time and saved the day. The porter boss immediately drops to his knees, thanking the guildmaster for rescuing them. Lai Yonghak doesn't fully buy it. He stares at Tiju trying to figure out if this kid is really just some random porter. Tiju doubles down, nervously laughing and swearing it was the red-haired mage who obliterated all the orcs before passing out from exhaustion. Perfectly timed, the guild soldiers arrive carrying the unconscious fire mage, which corroborates the lie beautifully. Li Yonghak doesn't dig deeper. He turns his back, orders his men to clean up, and starts walking away. But right before he disappears into the shadows, he stops and warns Tiju not to cause trouble in Garai, because if they meet again under bad circumstances, the kid won't be going home in one piece. Her boss lets out the biggest exhale of his entire life once Li Yonghak is gone. He whispers to Tiju that high-ranking masters are basically walking natural disasters, and the smartest thing you can ever do is run the other way. Who asks if the guild master is really that bad since the guy just seemed kind of arrogant. Boss sets him straight. Yonghak is corrupt to his core. He plays hero for the public, but takes bribes from criminals behind closed doors. He's the guy who runs security for the whole city, and every porter and small business has to pay tribute to his guild just to keep operating. Tiju adjusts his torn backpack and gets the message. He looks down at his reflection in a puddle of blood and feels a wave of shame wash over him. He's been out here for a month since the soul fusion, and he almost got caught because he got sloppy and overconfident. He mentally apologizes to Tang Gunnock and makes a vow. No more being a complacent coward just because he got a taste of power. His eyes glow green with renewed determination. Time to get serious. Welcome to Garai's economy, where hospitals are basically urban legends and pharmacies run the entire medical industry. The city is so dangerous that real doctors refuse to set up shop here. The few healers floating around are mostly unlicensed quacks who fled the law, so normal citizens avoid them like they're the disease. Pharmacies fill that gap completely. Pharmacists here have government authorization to prescribe and sell anything from magical potions to combat drugs right over the counter. Hunters would rather throw money at a proven potion than let some back alley surgeon operate on them with what might be a butter knife. Business is absolutely insane, and that's exactly why Tiju is standing in the rain outside Beek's drugstore, with 3 small brown vials in his hand, looking like a drug dealer dealer with a business degree. This man spent an entire month as a porter, grinding poisonous herbs and sleepless nights of cultivation just to create these little bottles. He even had to push his poison spirit art to the 3rd star just to get the precise energy control needed for the formula, but it paid off. He's got a product that nobody else on the entire planet can make. He walks through the door, bell jingling, and the clerk asks if he's looking for potions or bandages. Tiju ignores her completely and demands to speak with the owner. The clerk is confused. This soaking wet kid just walked in and is acting like he owns the place. From the back of the store, stern-looking old man with a gray mustache sizes him up. This is Bikong Pyo, the owner, and he's already unimpressed. Tiju tells him he's not here to buy, he's here to sell. The old man sighs like he's heard this pitch 1,000 times. Every day, some street vendor shows up thinking they've invented sliced bread. He tells Tiju to take his homemade junk to the flea market and stop wasting his time. Tiju doesn't flinch. He pulls out one of the brown vials, places it on the glass counter with surgical precision, and says 4 words that make the entire store freeze. An antidote for the mutant 3-striped mosquito. The old man's mustache literally trembles. Everyone in this empire knows there is no cure for that mosquito's poison. Not from the biggest pharmaceutical corporations, not from the military, nobody. Tiju keeps the pitch rolling like Fortune 500 CO. Take it orally, works as a preventative, effect lasts up to 10 hours, and he's already lining up more bottles on the counter. The old man's face goes through about 7 emotions before landing on rage. He explodes, calling Tiju an insolent brat and telling him to come up with a more believable scam next time. If you're gonna hustle, at least make it realistic. Tiju doesn't even blink. He adjusts his hood, slides a business card across the counter that reads Solitary Senior with a phone number, and tells the old man to test the samples and call him before midnight if he wants to become a billionaire. If he doesn't hear back, the offer goes to the competition. Then he turns around, waves over his shoulder, and walks out the door like he just closed a deal at Goldman Sachs. The bell chimes. The store sits in stunned silence. Now standing at the counter is Park Jin-soo, a massive armored tank of a man who is basically the poster child for potion addiction. This guy is a high-ranking raid team leader who probably has more potions in his bloodstream than blood at this point. He picks up one of the vials with genuine curiosity and asks Beak if it's legit. The old man admits he has no idea. Park shrugs and says there's only one way to find out. Before anyone can stop him, he pops the cap and chugs the entire thing right there in the store. The clerk is screaming at him to stop drinking unverified substances. Park wipes his mouth, pauses, and gives everyone the most disappointed look in pharmaceutical history. It's just plain water, no energy, no mana signature, nothing. As a man who lives on potions, he can tell instantly that this stuff has zero kick. The old man's jaw nearly hits the floor. He grabs the remaining vials and throws them straight into the trash. Tiju's business card sits in the trash can, forgotten. But here's the plot twist nobody saw coming. Deep in the mountains that same evening, Park Jin-soo's raid team is getting absolutely destroyed. A blade-toothed mart, an apex predator that has no business being in this low-level zone, ripped through their bug-proof suits in the first attack. With their gear shredded, 3-striped mosquitoes swarmed in and started dropping hunters one by one. Our mage goes down first, paralyzed by the venom, and the mosquitoes find Park himself. He feels the sting on his neck and his heart drops into his stomach. If the team leader goes down, everybody dies. His shield spell starts flickering. His mana is scattering. The Martin is circling for the kill. He's replaying his entire life, wondering where it all went wrong. This was supposed to be a routine frog hunt. The beast lunges straight for his throat. Claws connect with his shield and shatter it completely. The barrier explodes into a million glowing pieces. Park braces for the end, but the end doesn't come. Body is still full of mana, still full of strength. His hands work fine. His legs work fine. His energy is completely intact, even though his shield just broke. That's when the realization hits him like lightning. That trash water he chugged in the pharmacy wasn't water at all. It was the real thing. The antidote neutralized the mosquito venom before it could scatter his mana. He grabs his sword with both hands, a grin spreading across his face, and tells his team to regroup. If that kid's potion is actually the real deal, they're walking out of this forest alive. He leaps into the air, drives his blade straight into the Martin's skull, and the beast howls in agony. Park is screaming that the potion worked, and their survival rate just jumped to 100%. Cut to later that night. The pharmacy sign is glowing in the quiet dawn hours, and then the front door gets kicked off its hinges. Park Jin-soo storms in, covered head to toe in blood, panting like a man who just outran death itself. Bikong Pyo stumbles out from the back room wondering what maniac just broke his door at this hour. Park doesn't care about pleasantries. He wants every single bottle of that antidote from this morning. Whatever the price, every last drop. The old man suddenly realizes the kid wasn't scamming anybody. That medicine just saved an entire raid team. The tap water that supposedly had zero energy just became the most valuable liquid in the empire. The next morning, Tiju is casually strolling through the Gurai market taking a well-deserved day off. Street vendors are hawking everything from monster meat to custom armor, and for a kid who's been living on a mountain eating poisonous plants, this city feels like paradise. Pushing his poison spirit art to the 3rd star took a real toll on his body, and he needs time to recover. But the recovery can wait, because right now he's sitting in a luxury penthouse, signing a contract with Bikong Pyo, who has done a complete 180 from "get out of my store, scammer" to "I will buy literally everything you produce, please never leave me." The old man is calling Tiju a genius and a benefactor, and apologizing for ever doubting him. Tiju asks how the sample went, and Beak basically confirms it saved lives in the field. When Tiju casually mentions he has 60,000 bottles ready to go and can produce more anytime, the old man nearly passes out. They work out the numbers. Bottle sells for 50,000 won at the counter. With Garai's 10% tax, that's 27 billion won heading straight to Tiju's bank account. Here's where Tiju does something unexpected. He voluntarily lowers his supply price to 35,000 per bottle, cutting into his own profit margin. Beak is confused. Why would he leave money on the table? Tiju did his homework. Bikong Pyo isn't just a pharmacist. nemesis. He secretly runs the biggest orphanage in Garai, funding it with his own profit. The old man takes care of every abandoned kid in the city, and Tiju respects that. In exchange for the discount, he just needs a safe space inside the shop to manufacture his antidotes. Beak is so moved he's practically in tears. They shake hands and seal a partnership that's about to flip the entire Garai economy upside down. With billions in his account and a pocket full of swagger, Tiju hits the market to gear up. He needs weapons and armor, and he needs them yesterday. A massive bald blacksmith spots him from across the street and starts hollering about how his forge is the best in the region. Tiju tries to decline and walk away. The blacksmith grabs his shoulder with a grip that could crush a watermelon. And here's the wild part. Tiju is channeling his third star power, and this random blacksmith is pushing him around like a toddler. Either this guy is secretly absurdly powerful, or he just has freak strength from forging weapons all day. Inside the shop, Tiju's skepticism evaporates. The craftsmanship is genuinely elite. His eyes glow green as he examines the blades, and every single one is flawless. He pulls out a sketch and asks if the blacksmith can forge 100 custom daggers in the shape of willow leaves. The blacksmith studies the drawing, notes they're way too small for standard combat, but says it's totally doable. He'll need mana-infused steel though, and that's expensive. Total price, 250 million won. Tiju pays the full amount on the spot without even blinking. Martial arts on the shopping list is armor. In Tang Gunnock's world, the old master wore long robes with hidden pockets everywhere, perfect for stashing poisons and weapons. But rocking a full historical Muram robe in a modern city would make Tiju look like a cosplayer who got lost on his way to a convention. He needs something that blends function with not getting stared at on the street. That's when he notices a luxury boutique called Flame across the street. Promoter in a fox-eared outfit is handing out flyers about a new line of Magic Beast leather coat. Tiju spots a long overcoat in the window with tons of internal pockets, perfect for storing vials and hidden weapons. Modern aesthetics, ancient functionality. He walks in and immediately walks into a situation. Fire Mage from the orc fight is here, because of course she is. Turns out she works at this boutique as her main job. Monster hunting is just a side gig to pay rent. She spots Tiju, calls his name in front of everyone, and his cover starts sweating. She pulls him aside and comes clean. She knows he's the one who actually killed those orcs. She took the credit because the guild started asking dangerous questions, but she never forgot who really saved her. She's tearing up right there in the store, and Tiju has absolutely no idea how to handle genuine human gratitude because nobody has ever given him any. He tries to deflect, saying he only jumped in to test his techniques and saving her was basically an accident, but she's not having it. Meanwhile, there's a rich blonde socialite in the store named Zhang Yanhe, a military cadet from a wealthy family, and her secretary. They've been waiting for a specific coat. Yanhe isn't some spoiled brat though. She sees the walled fortress district where Garai's elite hide behind big walls and calls it cowardly. She thinks the powerful should be on the front line, not locked up in towers while common people get eaten by monsters. She's here because Siberian Phantom Fox fur makes the perfect temperature regulating armor for combat, not because she's chasing fashion. Her secretary is out here trying to spend grandpa's black card while Yanhai is calculating battlefield advantages. The fire mage suddenly tells the boutique manager she can't sell the coat that was reserved for this blonde VIP. The secretary goes ballistic. Measurements were already done. Yanhee just says she's tired of the drama and walks out, which is honestly the most powerful move anyone's pulled in this store today. Fire mage stands her ground, and Tiju is watching this whole thing unfold, wondering what on earth just happened. He asks why she canceled a sale that big. Mage gives him a look like he's the densest human being alive and says people must tell him he's slow on the uptake all the time. And she points at the Phantom Fox fur coat and says it's for him, a thank you gift for saving her life. Tiju refuses immediately. He can't accept something that expensive for no reason. He hardens up and tells him his intentions during the fight don't matter. All that matters is she's only breathing because of him. Her voice gets quiet when she says she'd rather give away her most valuable possession now, before one of them died foolishly in the mountains the way her old partner did. That lands different. Tiju has spent his entire life receiving nothing but insults, mockery, and contempt from people who are supposed to be his family. His stepmother laughed at his illness. His siblings treated him like a joke. His own father signed off on his murder. And now a complete stranger is crying in a clothing store because she's grateful he exists. He lets out a small smile. Maybe for the first time in 29 years. He accepts the coat. The mage squeals with joy and drags him off to get measured before he changes his mind. Quick cut to the immortal realm because Tang Gunnock has been busy. An immortal named Dong Tan is sitting on a cloud chewing magical grass, bored out of his mind, surrounded by old men in identical white robes talking about enlightenment. This place is the celestial equivalent of a retirement home with zero entertainment. But then he spots Tang Gunnock, and the old poison demon is wearing modern clothes. A dark trench coat over his traditional robe, looking like he time traveled to a cyberpunk film and came back with drip. Apparently, the earth memories from Tiju's soul gave Tang Gunnock a fashion upgrade. Now he's the only immortal in the entire realm who doesn't look like a generic fantasy wizard. Dong Tan is so fascinated by the outfit that he decides to befriend Tang Gunnock just to get style tips. He figures hanging out with the crazy poison guy has to be more entertaining than another century of Cloud City. Pulls out some valuable technique scrolls to trade for fashion advice. Tang Gunnock is over there biting into a celestial peach, completely unbothered by the attention. Even in the afterlife, this man is iconic. Back in Garage, Tiju has been locked in the basement of Beak's orphanage for an entire week, working like an absolute maniac. He turned the underground vault into a secret laboratory, and he's been mass-producing antidote around the clock. His hand glows green as he converts toxic herbs into pure healing liquid. He calls Beak to tell him the next batch of undiluted solution is ready. Beak is relieved but panicking because they're already almost out of stock. The pharmacy upstairs looks like a Black Friday riot. Hunters are pushing, shoving, and cutting in line just to get their hands on a single bottle. Tiju tells Beak to announce a steady supply and slap a 2-bottle limit on every customer to control the chaos. The old man worries about copycats flooding the market, but Tiju isn't stressed at all. Without the poison spirit art, anyone who tries to replicate the formula would just create literal poison. The recipe is mathematically impossible to copy unless you're also an ancient demon reincarnated into a modern body. He was down there sweating in his toxic lab. 2 kids from the orphanage decide to investigate the ghost in the basement. These brave little soldiers creep down the dark stairway trembling because the other kids swore something evil lives down there. The boy in front is acting tough, saying he's going to scare the intruder out of their secret base. He turns the handle on the heavy bolt door. It creaks open. Purple toxic mist billows out of the laboratory like a haunted house on steroid, and from the darkness emerges Tiju's silhouette, eyes glowing demonic purple from accumulated energy, drenched in sweat, looking like the final boss of a horror game. He croaks out a raspy hello. These children have never run so fast in their lives. They're screaming bloody murder up the staircase, telling everyone the stinky ghost is real. Tiju is standing there legitimately offended by the nickname. He takes a sniff of his own shirt and realizes he hasn't showered in a week. After, Tiju finally cleans up and meets Beak Sion, the old pharmacist's adopted daughter. She's sharp, professional, and has legs for days. She works at the orphanage and came down to investigate the ghost reports herself. She hands Tiju a heavy box from MX Forge, his custom weapon order, and politely suggests he hit the showers before opening it. Tiju is mortified. In his room, he ripped the box open to find 100 perfect willow leaf daggers gleaming in formation, beautiful craftsmanship, flawless balance, and taped to the inside is a pink note from the blacksmith, complete with a hand-drawn heart, calling him sweetheart and asking for feedback. Tiju crumples the note with a vein pulsing in his forehead. This grown man is sending him love letters with weapon deliveries. He throws the paper against the wall and silently begs the universe to make it stop. But the daggers themselves, absolutely perfect. He spins one between his fingers, tests the weight, runs his thumb along the edge, and draws blood with zero pressure. These blades are exactly what he needs. Freshly showered and properly armed, Tiju heads to Mount Jiri for a raid alongside a porter crew. The chubby porter boss is thrilled to see him, but their warm greeting gets interrupted by the most annoying human being on the mount, Jang Wonjun, an initiate rank mercenary with a ridiculous ponytail and an ego the size of a continent. This guy immediately starts barking at Tiju, demanding he bow and apologize for making everyone wait. Tiju calmly points out that he arrived on time and has zero reason to apologize to anybody, let alone someone whose rank amounts to slightly above civilian. Wonjun nearly draws his sword on the spot. A green spark flickers in Tiju's eye as he calculates how quickly he could remove this man's head from his shoulders. But the porter boss is whispering frantically, begging him to swallow his pride because the contract cancellation fee would bankrupt them. Tiju closes his eyes, exhales, and mutters the driest, most reluctant apology in human history. Wonjun sheaths his sword thinking he won the exchange. He has absolutely no idea how close he just came to becoming fertilizer. As they climb deeper into the mountain, porter boss keeps apologizing to Tiju for the humiliation, while the hunters up front are barking at the porters to hurry up like they're herding cattle. Tiju scans the group and notices something that should concern everybody. He asks the boss why there are only 7 people on a high-risk expedition that normally requires at least 15. The boss explains that ever since the mosquito antidote hit the market, teams have been slashing their support staff in half to save money on the final loot split. Fewer people, bigger paycheck, basic math, and max. And right on cue, Ponytail Boy overhears the conversation and comes stomping back to curse Tiju out again. He's asking if this trash porter is in such a hurry to die that he needs to question how real hunters operate. Tiju's eyes go completely dark. Not green, not glowing, just empty. The kind of empty that should make a person reconsider every life decision that led them to this moment. He looks this man dead in the face and tells him that everyone here has one foot in the grave. Wonjun fully draws his sword this time and threatens to end him right there, because who's going to miss a dead porter? The teen captain, a piece of work named Kwandong, raises his hand and tells Wonjun to chill. Not because threatening a civilian is wrong, but because somebody has to carry the heavy luggage. He laughs at Tiju's audacity like it's entertainment and casually comments that Garai's porters have been getting too mouthy lately. Wonjun backs off with a promise that if Tiju tries to run, he'll cut him down without a second thought. Tiju's killing intent is at absolute maximum. He's mentally drafting a eulogy for every single person in this group right now, but he forces himself to relax. The captain orders everyone to drink their anti-mosquito potions and move out. The boss whispers another apology and thanks Tiju for his patience. And here's the thing. The reason teams can even operate with this few people is because of Tiju's antidote. His invention changed the entire hunting economy by removing the mosquito threat that used to require dozens of support mages. These idiots are literally alive because of the medicine the porter made, and they're treating him like garbage. Tiju brings the vial to his lips and pretends to drink, because obviously he doesn't need his own product. His body is the product. He thinks about the fire mage who lost her partner on a mission just like this one because of those insects. His antidote could have saved that man. That thought keeps him grounded for about 3 seconds before the hunters up front start laughing and cracking jokes about how useless porters are. Taiju's murderous intent starts leaking out like a gas valve. Nobody turned off. The air around him gets heavier and the temperature seems to drop. He's genuinely debating whether to just delete this entire team and leave 0 witnesses. And the scariest part is, this isn't entirely him. Tanganic Soul didn't just upgrade Taiju's body, it infected his mind. The absolute poison demon had the morality of a man who burned entire clans to the ground for looking at him wrong. That poisonous heart is now beating inside Tiju's chest, and his old passive, take the abuse, keep your head down personality is dying by the minute. We get a flashback to the Murim world to show exactly what kind of soul Tiju is sharing headspace with. Kang Gunak is walking through the burning ruins of the Zuch clan's estate. Bodies everywhere. The patriarch is on his knees, coughing blood, screaming at Tang Gunak and asking what kind of madness possessed him to attack an allied clan. Kang Gunak doesn't even raise his voice. He just throws a blood-soaked cloth in the old man's face and asks who the real demon is here. Then he drops the truth. This allied clan was secretly working with the demonic cult. The patriarch's own son was slaughtering innocent civilians to create blood pills, and the father was covering up the whole operation to maintain peace. Kang Gunak kicks the son's severed head across the floor and asks if the old man would like to say goodbye. The patriarch is still crying, still begging, still insisting it's all lies. Kang Gunak has heard enough from enough liars to last 1,000 lifetimes. He says he has a special kind of hatred for cowards who use the weakest shields to protect their own rotten skin. The old man breaks down completely, offering to reveal every secret of the demonic cult in exchange for his life. Kang Gunak raises his hand, activates a storm of phantom blades, and says thousands of righteous warriors died because of this corruption. He delivers the final sentence: banished from existence. A flash of purple energy disintegrates the patriarch, and Tang Gunak promises he's coming for the cult leader next. Surrounded by floating swords and fire, this man sealed his own legend by executing traitors without a trial or a single shred of mercy. That is the soul living inside Tiju's head right now, and these initiate rank hunters are out here calling him a coward. Back on Earth, the hunters take down a mutant weasel and start celebrating like they just won the Super Bowl. Wanjun is admiring an energy crystal from the kill and laughing, calling the porters useless cowards who are only good for carrying weight. The porter boss bows his head and apologizes for existing, because that's all this man has ever known. Tiju just watches. He wipes his face and mutters under his breath that everyone on this team is about to die in a matter of minutes anyway, so wasting his poison on trash would be an insult to the art. He decides right there that he will not use his powers to save a single one of these hunters. Their ignorance earned them whatever comes next, and it's coming fast. The sound of heavy brush breaking echoes from the shadows. The hunter's laughter dies instantly by the arm and tells him to stay glued to his back if he wants to see Garai again. The old man doesn't even get to ask why before a massive wolf with blood-red fur and glowing eyes explodes out of the treetops and slams into the ground hard enough to crack the earth. The roar that follows shuts down every other sound in the forest. The porter boss is paralyzed. Wanjun is screaming, asking where the hell a monster of this level came from. Tiju stays calm, telling the boss they're both safe as long as they stay behind the front line. He recognizes the red-furred wolf immediately. This is not a creature that initiate rank hunters can handle. The real disaster isn't this wolf. It's the second one that steps into the clearing right behind it. These things always hunt in pairs. Both escape routes are now blocked by apex predator. The idiot warriors went from celebrating a weasel kill to being surrounded by death in under 30 seconds. The mage on the team fires a desperate water beam. The wolf dodges it like the spell was moving through syrup and lunges straight for the captain's throat. Wanjun is screaming for orders while backing up like a coward. The wolf lands right next to him, preparing to pounce, and this grown man with a sword is shaking so hard he can barely grip the handle. Then the captain, Kwandong, smiles. Not a scared smile, a malicious one. He suggests they use the porters as bait so the hunters can escape. Porter boss grabs Tiju's clothes, begging him to perform another miracle. Without blinking, Tiju draws one of his willow leaf daggers and says he'll show them how the real work gets done. He concentrates his poisonous aura into the blade, activates the single flash, and launches it at Wanjun's face. Not at the wolf, at Wanjun. The dagger flies between the ponytail swordsman's eyes and blows his skull apart like a watermelon meeting a sledgehammer. The green energy explosion shoots into the sky, tears through the surrounding trees, and echoes across the entire mountain. Birds scatter in every direction. The forest goes dead silent. The porter boss can barely form words. He's stammering, trying to process the fact that the porter just vaporized a hunter's head with a throwing knife. Kwandong is on the ground, screaming and clutching the side of his head because the green explosion ripped his ear clean off. When the smoke clears, he sees the real damage. The first wolf is lying dead on the forest floor with its head pierced straight through. That dagger went through Wanjun, killed him, and continued through the wolf behind him in a single shot. One throw, 2 kills. Second wolf is staring at its dead partner's corpse, seething with pure hatred. Tiju stomps forward, looks this beast in the eye, and tells it to shut up and calm down. Turns to Kwandong, the earless captain, and asks if this is standard procedure for their team. Use the weak as shields and run when things get dangerous. Kwandong screams back that it's the law of the jungle. The weak die so the strong can survive. That's just how it works. Tiju absorbs that answer, lets it settle, and then smiles. He agrees. If that's the rule, then the captain should have no complaints about what happens next. In a superhuman leap, Tiju jumps over the wolf and lands on a high rock behind it. Now the wolf and the hunters are face to face. Tiju sits down comfortably on the cliff edge and tells the remaining hunters he already took care of the pack leader. Now it's a fair fight. Beast versus brave warrior. Show him what the strong can do. Kwandong is losing his mind. He screams at the mage to attack, swearing the two of them can handle one wolf. He raises his sword and promises to cut Tiju to pieces after this is over. In that exact second, the wolf lunges and tears the mage in half. Blood sprays across the clearing like a horror movie scene. Tiju doesn't flinch. He reminds Kwandong of his own philosophy. The weak die so the strong survive. Since the warrior loved that rule so much while hunting easy weasels, he should be thrilled to experience it from the other side. The wolf lets out a blood-curdling roar, focused on its next meal. The porter boss in Tiju. The old man is stammering a warning that the red devil is coming for them. Tiju sighs with pure boredom. He tells the wolf that if it had just turned around and walked away, it could have lived. Killing a bunch of weak trash gave it too much confidence, and now it forgot who's actually in charge of this forest. He vanishes from the rock so fast the stone shatters from the force of his push-off. Flying straight at the beast's face, he pulls both arms back and tells it the games are over. He concentrates everything into the blood venom twin palm and slams both hands directly into the wolf's snout. The impact erupts with devastating green energy, launching the wolf into the sky like a ragdoll. The shockwave tears through the clouds and flattens every tree in a 50-meter radius. The wolf is dead before gravity even remembers to bring it back down. The porter boss cannot process reality right now. The kid he thought was just another broke porter from the city just obliterated a high-ranked predator with his bare hands. Then the pieces start connecting. The orc massacre. The fire mage's story. It was never the mage. It was always this kid. Tuju stretches his arms, rolls his neck, and says it felt great to get some exercise after being stuck in a lab for days. He walks over to the old man, who is literally on the ground begging for his life, thinking he's about to be the next casualty. Tuju scratches his head, genuinely confused, and asks why he would off the only decent person in the group. He extends a hand, helps the old man up, checks if he's hurt, and then asks for one small favor. His eyes shift to a cold, serious glow. Everything that happened today on this mountain stays between them. The boss agrees instantly, nodding so fast his neck might snap, swearing he saw nothing and has sudden onset amnesia. They start walking back towards civilization, leaving the bodies for the forest to clean up. The monsters will eat the remains before morning. Evidence deleted by nature. Tiju doesn't feel a single ounce of guilt. He didn't technically kill those hunters with his own hand. He just put them in a situation where their own cowardice did the job. And whether he's thinking as Kim Tiju or as the poison demon, the conclusion is identical. Human trash that uses the weak as shields doesn't deserve mercy. Meanwhile, back in Garai, pharmaceutical cartel is having an emergency meltdown. Inside the I Pharmacy headquarters, Joe Hunio slams his fist on the conference table hard enough to crack the wood. Their profits have been cut in half. The newspapers are all running the same headline. Kim Tiju's mosquito antidote from Beek's drugstore is dominating the market. The pharmaceutical bosses are in full panic mode. One executive in a red jacket is screaming that they should have crushed that little corner shop months ago. Another in a suit points out that they still control 70% of the Garai market and only Beek's shop escapes their monopoly. The red jacket guy fires back that the autonomous committee protects Beek Hongpeo just because the old man feeds orphans, as if that's supposed to matter when billions of won are at stake. Joe Hunio, the platinum-haired CEO of I Pharmacy, claps his hands to shut everybody up. He's wearing a fake friendly smile that doesn't even pretend to reach his eyes. He suggests they stop posturing and just admit the truth. None of their labs could copy the antidote. The other bosses lower their heads in defeat. One of them insists cracking the formula is just a matter of time. The other slams the table again, screaming that time is exactly what they don't have because they're bleeding money every single day. Hunio is done with the democratic approach. He's ready to handle this the old-fashioned way, the mob-style way. The red jacket exec gets excited and asks if the investigation into the shop owner is complete. Hunio presses a button and a profile pops up on the big screen. Kim Tiju, age 29, eldest son of Brigadier General Kim Unbang. The room tenses. Going after the son of a masterclass general is a death wish. But Hunio waves that off and says the surface info is just the appetizer. The real story is much better. Next slide shows that Tiju is a mana reject who was kicked out of his family. His own stepmother Honda Mitsui wants him dead. The kid has zero protection and zero connections. The red jacket executive bursts out laughing. Family Feud makes this the easiest target they've ever had. Hunio lays out the plan. First, approach Taiju with a generous offer to buy the distribution rights. He refuses, the guild will do the dirty work and erase the kid. His smile turns genuinely sinister. Either way, they get what they want. But Taiju isn't the only one with eyes on him. Over at the Jiren Monster Defense Corps base, Lieutenant General Ojin Hyang is reading a classified file on the antidote developer, a mana reject and former soldier named Kim Tiju. The general sees opportunity written in neon letters. The military recently got turned down by Beek's shop due to low stock, and if the defense corps could secure a steady supply of that antidote, it could launch a massive purge of the monster zones before the next horde hits. He taps the file and grins. As long as the family bond still holds, getting the supply should be simple. He orders his men to contact the Pru territory immediately and speak with General Kim Unbang. Cut to the Pru domain. A phone receiver slams down on a desk. General Kim Unbang is sitting in his luxury office with a grim expression. He mutters that even a useless worm will fight back when you step on it. His wife, Honda Mitsui, is standing nearby, fanning herself and laughing about how her sickly stepson apparently learned to make medicine. She picks up her phone and starts booking train tickets to Garai, pretending to be concerned that the poor boy might get scammed because he has too much money. Unbang looks exhausted. He tells her to just leave the kid alone. She turns around with feigned surprise. He reminds her they already removed Tiju from the family registry. She puts on a fake smile, but her eyes are ice cold. She insists blood bonds don't disappear with paperwork and they have a moral duty to help. Unbang tells her to drop the act. If she had any conscience left, she'd let this go. He knows about the assassination attempt. She doesn't even flinch. She says there's no evidence left since the entire platoon became monster food. Then she changes tactics and starts screaming. She demands he call Tiju and forces force him to supply the military in exchange for a promotion. She throws it in his face that her father's Japanese empire won't support their bankrupt territory forever, and that he needs to think about their legitimate children's future. Unbang is gripping the arms of his chair so hard the leather might tear. He's completely cornered by his own powerlessness. Finally, he tells her to go ask Tiju herself. He won't lift a finger. Anda Mitsui's face contorts into pure rage. She storms out screaming that she'll handle it her own way. Door slams so hard the walls shake. Alone in his office, the general stares at the ceiling and admits he was sure the boy had already died in a forest. He says he's happy to know his son is alive and living meaningfully. That's his entire contribution as a father. Back in Garai, Tiju finally tries on the Phantom Fox fur coat from the boutique and the fire mage is beaming. This coat is a masterpiece. Lightweight, temperature regulating, perfect gray color for staying low profile in the forest, and absolutely loaded with hidden pockets that she had custom added because she noticed he carries weapons. Tiju tries to refuse one more time, but she shuts that down immediately. The coat is the fair price for her life. End of discussion. He mentions being worried about the blonde socialite who originally reserved the coat. The mage already handled that too. He tracked down an identical piece and had it delivered directly to Jang Yanhai's house. Tiju decides to return the kindness his way. He points to an entire wall of children's coats in the store and tells her to wrap them all up. He pulls out his black card and says he's donating everything to the orphanage. It'll also cover her sales target for the entire month. She's so moved she practically sprints to the stockroom. Tiju watches her go and thinks to himself that she's one of the rarest things in Garai, a genuinely good person. Then the boutique door opens and in walks Joe Hunio, the platinum-haired CEO of Yai Pharmacy. Expensive shoes clicking on hardwood, plastic smile stretched across his face, business card extended like a peace offering. He says he's been looking for Tiju everywhere. Tiju stares at the outstretched hand without moving a single muscle. Hunio retracts the card, chuckling to save face, and drops the act. He says the guild knows everything in Garai and asks for a small favor. He wants the antidote formula. Tiju asks if this is a favor or a threat. Hunio says it's a favor for now. Tiju's answer is a short-term no. Hunio offers triple the price. No. Offers to cover all penalty fees. No. Offers 5 billion won for the entire recipe. Tiju asks if the CEO would sell a gold mine for pocket change. The atmosphere goes from tense to toxic. Hunio's mask slips and genuine malice flashes across his face. He warns Tiju that his life in Garai is about to become a living hell. Tiju waves goodbye over his shoulder and tells them not to worry about it. The mage comes back and asks about the visitor. Tiju calls the billion-won pharmaceutical CEO a persistent street peddler. Outside, Hunio is gripping his phone so hard the case might crack. He makes a call and orders his goons to start the dirty work. But Tiju has been doing some thinking of his own. Out at his new villa construction site on the outskirts of Garai, he drops off bags of expensive clothes he bought for the workers' kid. Construction boss literally cries when he sees the gift. Tiju watches the sunset over the rising steel framework and makes his decision. The encounter with EJ Pharmacy gave him the push he needed. He's done playing small. He announces that he's founding his own pharmaceutical corporation to go toe-to-toe with the cartel. But before the company launches, he needs to disappear for a while. He's going deep into the mountains to develop a brand new medicine that nobody has ever seen before. Let's talk about power for a sec. Primordial Chaos Absolute Poison Spirit Art has 10 stages. Tiju has been operating at the 3rd star, which puts him at first-rate status. To reach the peak, you have to unlock a poison spirit and master the Rain of Myriad Flowers technique. That's the same power Tang Gunok used to literally melt the heavenly demon and crush the entire demonic cult. The art combines all 5 elements into a unified lethal energy system. At the final stage, you can conjure the Rain of Infinite Blades, a technique that can dissolve gods and demons until not even dust remains. Tiju needs to reach the 4th star as fast as possible, and the key to getting there is consuming new and more powerful poisons. He heads deep into the Mount Jiri Beast zone and starts hunting immediately. A massive leopard cat, literally the size of a tiger, lunges at him from the brush. Tiju doesn't flinch. He drives a poison dagger straight through its chest with one fluid motion. The fight is over before it starts. He examines the corpse and pulls out a decently sized poison gland. At stage 3, he considers his current level pathetic. With Tang Gunok's knowledge, evolution is just math. Consume different poisons, process them through the art, and his power grows. His body is finally stabilized and adapted to magic after years of being a reject. He just needs one more ingredient, the spore poison water deer. He finds it grazing in a clearing. This bizarre creature has 2 humps on its back that look like sacks filled with liquid death. Tiju moves like a shadow and takes it down in a single leap. The second the deer dies, those humps explode. A massive cloud of microscopic, highly toxic purple spores erupts into the air. The entire clearing becomes a kill zone. Leaves melt off the trees. The ground starts dissolving. This stuff is potent enough to eat through elite military gas masks. Any normal person would be dead in seconds. Tiju catches a spore on his fingertip and nods. This is exactly what he needs. He starts pulling every last particle of purple mist into his body like a human vacuum cleaner. Hurricane of toxic energy spirals around him as he performs the hand seals of the poison spirit art. A sphere of green energy forms in his chest, merging the deer's toxin with his own power. Forces the ball of energy directly into his heart. The absorption process is violent. His entire body glows emerald green as the poison and his mana fight for dominance inside him. He sits in lotus position for hours, maybe longer, meditating through the pain and processing an insane volume of toxic energy. He remembers every beating, every humiliation, every time his family treated him like garbage. That anger fuels the conversion. He promises himself that nobody will ever walk over him again. Green aura flows through his hands like calm water. The core stabilizes, and just like that, the 4th star is reached. Taeju collapses from sheer exhaustion, wipes the dirt from his face, and admits it took way longer than planned. But the power boost is real. He now knows the recipe for the water deer antidote by heart. He's stronger than he's ever been, and he's got a massive pack of materials strapped to his back. Time to head home. He's a little anxious on the walk back. He was off the grid for 2 weeks with his phone turned off. No telling what the pharmaceutical cartel did while he was gone. He reaches Beek's drugstore at night, drops his gear, and calls out for the old man. The shelves are completely empty. Taeju jokes that business must be booming. But when Beek Hongpeo walks out, he looks like he aged 10 years and 14 days. Beek Sion is there too, both of them looking stressed beyond belief. The old man says the big pharmaceutical corporations cut off their supply of every other medicine. On top of that, the autonomous committee demanded the antidote's ingredient list, claiming they're investigating potential side effects. It's a complete shakedown. Taeju immediately knows who's behind it. Jo Hunio is using his seat on the committee to squeeze them into handing over the formula or face a total sales ban. The corruption goes all the way up. But Taeju isn't the type to curl up and die when somebody pushes him. He tells Beek it's time to stop playing defense and strike first. The old man is confused. How do you attack when you've lost your supply chain? Taeju's plan is brilliantly petty. If the committee says the medicine is dangerous, fine. They won't sell a single drop to anyone. Close the shutters, lock the doors, complete shutdown. Instead of panicking, the whole crew gathers at the orphanage for a massive feast. A giant piece of water deer meat is roasting over an open fire, and the kids are eating like royal. Taeju takes a bite, and his eyes practically roll back in his head. This meat is transcendent. It's a religious experience disguised as a barbecue. The spore poison water deer meat was once considered the most exquisite delicacy in the entire empire, but since nobody could remove the lethal toxin, it became an exclusive monopoly of the imperial family. Regular people couldn't even dream of tasting it. But Taeju cracked the antidote, which means he just unlocked the most exclusive menu item in the world. He starts imagining the business potential, selling purified deer meat to the elite, supplying the emperor directly, maybe even catching the attention of a grandmaster. Beek interrupts his daydream, genuinely grateful for the feast, but worried about the bigger picture. He asks if it's really safe to keep the shop closed with no explanation. Taeju tells him to trust the plan. He asks one simple question with a malicious grin. Who's really going to suffer if the antidote disappears from the shelves? Hint, it's not them. 5 days later, the front of Beek's drugstore is a war zone of angry hunters. The shutters are down and the crowd is furious. Park Jin-soo is out front in full armor, screaming that they haven't been able to buy potions in almost a week. Rumors are flying about the committee pressuring Beek to hand over the formula. Hunters are defending the old man, swearing the medicine has 0 side effects. Then a voice cuts through the chaos like a blade. Lai Yong-hak, the master rank guild leader and militia captain, steps out of the shadows with his hand on his sword hilt. He tells the crowd to shut up and announces that the sales ban is a direct committee order pending a full analysis. Park fires back, asking how regular hunters are supposed to work without the antidote. Another hunter throws it in Lai Yong-hak's face that it's easy to ban the medicine when you're a master rank who's immune to poison. The crowd backs him up. Lai Yong-hak's expression shifts from annoyed to genuinely dangerous. His aura flares with crimson killing intent as he asks when exactly trash like them gain the courage to bark at a master. The entire crowd evaporates in seconds. Park Jin-soo is the last one standing, trembling but refusing to leave. Lai Yong-hak focuses his full pressure on the lone holdout. Park's legs finally give out and he bolts down the street screaming apologies. Lai Yong-hak sheaths his sword and grumbles about dealing with peasants. But in his mind, his real anger is pointed at Jo Hunio. He hates being used as an errand boy for a corrupt pharmaceutical CO, and he's already planning to make Hunio pay for the manipulation. In his luxury car, Hunio is on the phone gloating about how even a master like Lai Yong-hak has to dance to his tune. As long as he and his ally maintain their 2-to-1 majority on the 3-member committee, Lai Yong-hak is neutralized. He promises his contact that the boycott will crush Beek's shop within a week, but Taeju has been 3 steps ahead this entire time. While the pharmacy cartel was busy playing shutdown games, Taeju walked into the Jiren Monster Defense Corps headquarters and sat down across from Lieutenant General Ojin Hyang. He lays out his proposal with a straight face. 1 million units of mosquito antidote supplied directly to the military at 50,000 won per unit. Total value 50 billion won. The general goes completely silent. His eyes glow with an intense violet energy as he processes the number. Taeju starts sweating, wondering if he aimed too high or too low. The general's adjutant leans in and whispers that the commander is actually in an exceptionally good mood. Ojin Hyang finally speaks, and his question catches Taeju completely off guard. He asks if Taeju can actually make a profit selling at that price. The general isn't trying to negotiate down. He's worried about Taeju's margins. He turns to his adjutant and asks if the core reserve funds can handle 50 billion. The adjutant confirms the budget is more than sufficient. Taeju immediately requests a 50% deposit up front, and he tells the general there's one more item he'd like to add to the partnership. He reaches into his bag and pulls out a perfectly cooked steaming piece of meat on a plate. Ojin Hyang stares at it in total confusion. He was expecting another vial of medicine, not a Michelin star presentation in a military office. The general takes a bite and his eyes go wide. The flavor is incredible. He admits he's been avoiding barbecue for health reasons, but this meat is too good to pass up. Taeju lets him enjoy the moment before dropping the reveal. That's the meat of the legendary spore poisoned water deer. The adjutant's jaw hits the floor. He knows exactly what this is. The water deer is the rarest and most dangerous delicacy on the entire planet. The meat is rumored to have a heavenly taste so intense that juices burst with every bite like a fountain. But since nobody has ever been able able to remove the lethal toxin, the Jiren defense base was always considered a useless backwater posting. When Ojin Hyun got assigned there, he knew one wrong move would cost him his career and probably his head. But Tiju's antidotes just handed him the golden ticket. With a steady supply of mosquito venom antidote and now a water deer cure, the general can launch unprecedented operations against the monster zone. His career trajectory just went from forgotten in the mountains to knocking on the Imperial Court's door. His adjutant walks in, salutes, and confirms the 25 billion won deposit has been processed. He also mentions that the newspaper coverage of the Pharmaceutical Association drama turned out to be the best free advertising money could never buy. The general tells his right-hand man to keep a close eye on Tiju and give him whatever he needs. Then the adjutant closes the door, and these two grown military men proceed to have the most unprofessional celebration in Defense Corps history. They're bear-hugging, fist-pumping, and screaming "Long live Kim Tae-yu" down the hallway loud enough for the entire base to hear. Their chance to climb to the Imperial Court just became very, very real. Back in Garai, Tiju's new company headquarters is rising fast on the outskirts of the city. The construction is moving at impressive speed, and B. Kong Peo is sitting in a temporary office, praising the kid's work ethic. Tiju opens the morning paper and grins from ear to ear. His antidote is front-page news. Commander O really came through by leaking the military partnership to the press. The coverage sent the product's popularity through the roof overnight. He announces that the 25 billion won advance payment has already hit the account. Beak practically starts crying. He remembers how the banks used to humiliate him when he was struggling to keep the orphanage running. Now he's sitting on billions. He can't run an entire corporation alone. He needs a partner. He looks Beak in the eye and makes the official proposal. Full business partnership. Beak refuses immediately, saying he's just a small-time pharmacist who knows nothing about corporate operations. Tiju fires back that he also only knows how to make potions and nothing else. They're equally unqualified, so they might as well be unqualified together. Beak gives in but insists Tiju take 90% of the profit. Tiju hits him with a flat no so loud the old man flinches. The split is 70-30 or the company doesn't exist. Beak accepts, but he's got someone in mind for the actual day-to-day management. His adopted daughter, Beak Sion, the smartest person he ever raised. Tiju remembers meeting her at the orphanage and approves the recommendation. They shake hands and seal the deal. The company name will be Tihung Bio, combining syllables from both their names. Beak mentions he's arranged for some guards from the orphanage to serve as Tiju's personal security detail, because men like Jo Hunio don't just threaten, they follow through with violence. Tiju finds this hilarious. He tells Beak to keep the guards at the orphanage instead. The old man is confused, staring at Tiju's clean face. No mana tattoo, no awakened marks. Just a regular-looking 29-year-old former soldier. What exactly is this kid trusting so much that he turned down bodyguards? Tiju's eye flickers with a sinister green glow for just a second. He asks the old man to trust him. Beak starts sweating. Tiju grabs his coat, pulls on his gloves, and says he actually does want the security escort, but not for his protection. He's taking them on a hunting trip to prove what he can do. Time to show, not tell. Deep in the Jiri forest, Tiju walks alongside the hired escort, a young swordsman named Beak Chain Hun. This kid is the old pharmacist's adopted son, User Ring, carrying a sword and a healthy amount of skepticism. He immediately clocks Tiju's Phantom Fox fur coat and his brain short circuits doing the math on how a former porter is wearing something worth over 4 billion won. He nervously calls Tiju director and promises to take point when the monsters show up. Tiju tells him to relax, drop the formalities, and just call him brother. Chang Kun insists the boss should stay behind him since he's the awakened fighter here. Tiju gives him a patient smile and says he's very used to people doubting his strength. Then his expression shifts. He tells the group they need to clear the area right now. Chang Hun looks around confused, seeing nothing. Dozens of glowing red eyes appear in the shadow. Storm weasels. An entire pack of them launching from the trees at once. Chang Hin draws his sword in pure panic, cursing his luck at the sheer number of monsters coming at them. Death from every direction. Haiju doesn't even draw a weapon. He flexes his knees, slides dozens of steel nails between his fingers from the hidden pockets of his coat, and fires the rain of hidden blades. A gigantic explosion of purple energy swallows the entire clearing. Every single weasel gets pierced midair before touching the ground. The pack is erased from existence in under a second. Chang Hun lowers his sword with his mouth hanging open. He just watched one man delete an army of lethal monsters like he was swatting mosquitoes. Tiju dusts off his hands, adjusts his coat, and complains about his bad luck running into such a large pack. He explains he couldn't use his good daggers because collecting them all afterwards would be too much work, so he burned through 200 disposable steel projectiles instead. He's already calculating the cost of those lost weapons and wishing his poison spirit art was at the 7th level so he could just recall them to his hand. Chain Hun asks the only logical question, is Tiju a disguised master hiding his rank tattoos? Tiju says no, he's not an awakened, and tells everyone to stay focused because he's taking the lead. Chain Hun's entire job description just became irrelevant. They push deeper into the forest until Tiju raises his hand. Everyone freezes. In the bushes, a spore-poisoned water deer is grazing, completely unbothered. Chang Hen draws his weapon and whispers about an attack plan. Taiju tells the entire group to drink the antidote right now. The hunters look at each other in disbelief. This potion is still technically in the testing phase, but after watching Tiju vaporize a weasel army with his bare hand, nobody has the nerve to question him. Chang Hun chugs the bottle, draws his sword, and charges. The deer screeches and releases a massive toxic cloud. Chang Hun leaps through the smoke and cleaves the beast clean down the middle. One perfect strike. The carcass hits the ground and someone screams a warning. The poison sacs on the deer's back are about to burst. Purple spores explode in every direction, coating the entire group. Everyone braces for the worst, but nothing happens. No symptoms, no paralysis, no mana disruption. The antidote works perfectly. Chang-Chun is standing in the middle of a lethal purple cloud breathing normally, and he starts laughing in pure relief. Whole team erupts. Taiju closes his eyes and nods. Field test successful. He tells the group to butcher the deer for its meat and keep moving. There are more targets deeper in the forest, and once this antidote hits the market, this species won't last long. Meanwhile, across the empire in the capital city of New Seoul, a corporate drama is unfolding at the Mirin Group headquarters. A bald middle manager named Jian Juok approaches Beek Sion's desk. He knows she's the adopted daughter of the orphanage owner from Gurai, and he's got a very specific job in mind. He slams a newspaper article about Tihong Bio on her desk and tells her to drop everything and go to Gurai. The mission? Get close to her father and steal the antidote formula for the Mirin Group. He's literally asking her to commit corporate espionage against her own family. Sion processes the request. This bald cockroach of a middle manager wants her to betray the man who raised her since childhood for a promotion. Right in the middle of his pitch, her phone buzzes. It's her father. She asks to take the call and the manager tells her to make it quick. She listens to whatever Beek Hong Peo says on the other end and hangs up with a smirk. The manager asks if she's made her decision. Suwon confirms she's heading to Gurai immediately. The manager gets excited, raising his hand to explain the details of the operation. Before he can finish the gesture, Suwon rips her employee ID off her lanyard and jams it straight into his chest. She tells him to go to hell and announces she's quitting this dump. The manager is screaming obscenities as she walks away, asking who this orphan thinks she is to refuse. Suwon doesn't even look back. She just marches out the door with her head held high. That might be the most satisfying resignation in corporate history. Night falls over Tiju's new company building. The team is loading boxes of rare deer meat in the warehouse. Tiju praises everyone's work, dismisses the crew, and sends Chang-Chun back to the orphanage to rest despite the swordsman's protests about his security duties. Tiju asks him point blank if he still thinks the director needs protection after what he saw in the forest. Worthy people are in a city like Gurai. He takes the elevator up to his new penthouse, walks through the silent hallway, and tosses his coat on an armchair. This is his home now, a real home. Not a military barracks where soldiers tried to kill him. Not his family's estate where he was treated like a disease. His place, bought with his money, protected by his power. He lies back on the bed, stares at the ceiling, and traces the journey in his head. From reject to porter to pharmaceutical CEO. From a cliff in the mountains to a penthouse in the city. Gurai is the foundation. This is where he builds his empire, and he has no intention of stopping. But the city never sleeps. In a dark alley on the other side of Gurai, a gang leader named Mong Shik is confirming the night's mission. The target is the kid from the new company, some newbie who thinks buying a fancy building makes him untouchable. Mong Shik is annoyed because Joe Hunyo from EJ Pharmacy specifically ordered the kid taken alive. If it were up to the gang, they'd just snatch the formula by force. But orders are orders. They cut through the penthouse's security fence, creep through the corridors carrying steel bars, and Mang Shik pulls out a syringe filled with some kind of knockout drug. The plan is simple: inject the target, roll his eyes back, and stuff him in a car. Mong Shik pushes the door open. The bed is empty. Before his brain can process the problem, a hand shoots out of the darkness and clamps around his wrist like a steel vise. Tiju is standing right there, fully awake, eyes glowing green, and he is not happy about the intrusion. He tells them he almost let them jab him just to see what the drug would do, but changed his mind at the last second. The gang is frozen in terror. Tiju snatches the syringe from Mong Shik's hand, twirls it between his fingers, and casually mentions that he really hates needles. He asks the most unhinged question possible. Would the effect be weaker if he just swallowed it instead? The goons think he's bluffing. He's not. Juwon caps the syringe and squirts the entire dose of poison directly onto his tongue like it's eye drop. He tosses the empty syringe to the floor, and his dark toxic aura explodes, filling the entire room. His eyes are fully illuminated. He grins and asks if they brought any more. In Tangunok's world, the poison demon devoured every drug and toxin known to man to evolve. At 4 stars, Tiju can process these substances like a light snack. He places his hands on the downed goons and starts absorbing the drugs directly from their bloodstream, asking them if they feel reborn yet. Then he turns to Mong Shik and asks who sent them. A blood-curdling scream tears through the penthouse windows and echoes across the sleeping city. The next morning, Lai Yong-hak's motorcade is speeding toward the scene. The report says Mong Shik's gang broke into Tiju's home and got caught. Tiju dragged the criminals to the city police alive and filed a formal complaint with video evidence pointing directly at Joe Hunyo as the mastermind. Lai Yong-hak is furious, not at the gang, at Hunyo for botching the job so badly. They arrive to find Tiju standing calmly over the entire gang, all of them handcuffed and kneeling. Mong Shik is on the ground drooling and shaking, begging for more drugs like a man in the worst withdrawal of his life. Lai Yong-hak steps forward, takes one look at the pathetic scene, and decides to clean it up his way. He draws his massive sword and declares a summary death sentence on the spot. His blade comes down with terrifying speed, but a wall of green energy blocks it mid-swing. Sparks fly everywhere and the dust clears to reveal Tiju holding the blade barehanded without breaking a sweat. He asks the guildmaster why he's so eager to silence the key witness who can provide vital evidence. He pulls out his phone and plays the recording where Mang Shik names Joe Hunyo as the man who ordered the kidnapping. He stares at Lee Yong-hak and asks him to do his job now that the evidence is public. Lee Yong-hak's aura flares with dark energy. He recognizes Tiju now, the same porter from the orc incident in the forest, the brat who made the antidote. He covers his body in purple lightning and declares that his word is the only law in Gurai. He offers one final deal. Hand over the formula and the 4 gangsters walk free. Taiju refuses. Lai Yonghak snaps and lunges with his sword. Tiju's hands transform into claws of pure poisonous energy and he charges straight back. Steel meets poison and sparks shatter the pavement. The two trade blows across the square. Tiju raining down poison-tipped daggers while Li Yonghak deflects them with lightning-fast swordplay. Tiju manages to draw blood, just a small cut on the master's hand. Lai Yonghak glances at the scratch and chuckles. He warns that a second offense against a master carries a death sentence. Tiju asks if all of Gurai's masters are this disappointing. Lai Yonghak explodes forward with a massive energy strike. Tiju dodges, hits him with a poisonous repulsion blast that sends the master flying. But just as the clash is about to escalate into something that levels the entire block, a deafening roar splits the sky. A military helicopter drops into the middle of the square. Jin Haiyang lands with a thunderous impact that cracks the concrete, flanked by his elite officers in full formation. He tells Lai Yonghak that he's gone far enough. The general greets the guild master like an old friend, dripping with sarcasm. Lai Yonghak demands to know what the military is doing in a free city. The general laughs and asks if a high-ranking officer needs permission to walk through his own country. He introduces his division commanders and makes it crystal clear that Tiju's safety is now everyone's business. Lai Yonghak is staring down 4 military masters at once and realizes he brought a knife to a nuclear war. He decides to retreat, but Tiju calls out to him saying the conversation isn't over. The general grabs Lai Yonghak's arm and asks him point-blank why he was covering for the man who tried to kidnap a valuable ally. He reminds the guild master that the penalty for treason and corruption is losing his head on the spot, and he would absolutely love to do the honors. Lai Yonghak is trembling. His entire militia team is holding their breath. Defeated, humiliated, and out of option, the master orders everyone to get in the cars and leave before they all lose their head. Convoy tears out of the square. Tiju thanks the general for the save. Jin Haiyang waves it off, saying they're in the same boat now. Big Hung Pyo exhales for what might be the first time in hours. The general points out that the situation almost turned catastrophic. Tiju agrees and says they at least secured the evidence against Jo Hunyo. In the back of a speeding police car, Lai Yonghak is clutching his arm and cursing every name he can think of. Then he notices the scratch on his hand. It's glowing. Sickly green veins are spreading across his skin like a roadmap of agony. The poison from Tiju's strike is activating. It creeps up his arm, reaches his neck, crawls across his face. The pain hits like acid being poured through his bloodstream. His assistant is panicking, asking what's happening to him. Lai Yonghak screams at the driver to get him to a hospital immediately. The car tears across Gurai's main bridge, tires squealing on every curve. The most powerful man in Gurai is in the back seat, convulsing in agony, unable to comprehend how a kid with no tattoo just poisoned a man. High above the mountains, the military helicopter cuts through the cloud. Inside, Mangshik is trembling, surrounded by armed soldiers. He tries to cut a deal, offering to snitch on everyone. Lai Yonghak, Yai Pharmacy, everything. The general doesn't even look at him. He says they already have Taiju's video and don't need any more information. He gives a nod to his subordinate. A soldier kicks Mangshik in the gut, grabs him by the neck, drags him to the open helicopter door, and boots him out into the empty sky. The scream fades into the wind and the clouds swallow him whole. The soldier closes the hatch, salutes, and reports that the cleanup is complete. The general nods approvingly and says to handle the Yai Pharmacy CO with the same efficiency. He also orders 2 officers to head down to Gurai and set up permanent security at Tihang Bio. With a calculating smile, he admits this protection arrangement is the perfect excuse to tie his career permanently to Tiju's billion-won operation. Beautiful. In Gurai, Bixian arrives at the bus station. Her brother Changhun calls to fill her in on everything. He tells her about the Weasel Massacre and swears their boss is hiding master-level strength. Xian can barely believe what she's hearing. She grabs a taxi to the orphanage, watching the mountain scenery fly past the window as she processes just how much her world has changed in the span of a single phone call. She arrives at the orphanage gates and finds the yard overflowing with life. Kids are running around a massive bonfire. Big Hong Peo spots her and his face slits into the biggest grin. She announces she quit her corporate job for good. The old man hugs her, genuinely proud. She notices the feast and asks what the celebration is about. Big explains that Tiju came back from a hunt with an entire poisonous deer. Sign connects the dots with Changhun's stories and realizes everything she heard is true. This kid is the real deal. Tiju is at the fire, stirring a cauldron of deer meat while orphans drool around him. Beak introduces his daughter formally. Tiju greets her with a polite smile, and Xian admits she remembers their first meeting where she was far less friendly. She shakes his hand firmly, promises to build Tihang Bio into a global powerhouse, and apologizes for underestimating him. Tiju can work with that. Then the sound of heavy boots echoes down the dirt road. Dozens of soldiers in full uniform march through the orphanage gate. Major Du Minsu snaps a sharp salute and announces they've been assigned to permanent security duty at Tihang Bio. Tiju welcomes them, slightly overwhelmed by the sheer number of people now under his umbrella. The major pledges his life to protecting the army's main antidote supplier. He turns to his troops and orders them to set up camp right there in the yard. For the first time in his life, Tiju has real allies, a partner who believes in him, an administrator who can run the business, a security force that answers to the military, and a foundation built entirely by his own hands. He takes a deep breath and lets it sink in. This is real. Across town at the Gurai Committee Castle, Jo Hunyo is getting demolished. Behind closed doors, the committee drops the hammer, guilty on all charges: price fixing, threats, illegal lobbying, corruption. The gavel bangs and the platinum-haired CEO's empire crumbles around him. He stumbles through the golden corridors in a daze, cursing everyone one who took his money and abandoned him the second things got hot. Mang Shik vanished into thin air. The antidote kid is still alive and richer than ever. Every single plan failed. He runs to his car in the parking garage, knowing he has nowhere left in Garai that's safe. He tears down the midnight highway, pushing the engine to its limit, trying to put as much distance between himself and the city as possible. A traffic light turns red. He stops. A motorcycle pulls up beside him. Headlights reflect menacingly in his side mirror. Before Joe Hunio can even process what's happening, a heavy steel baton smashes through his driver's side window. Blood spatters across the interior. The CO slumps over the steering wheel. The car lurches forward, uncontrolled, crashes through the bridge guardrail, and plummets into the dark water below. The motorcycle rider watches the car sink beneath the surface, reports the mission's successful completion over the radio, and rides off into the night without a single witness. Joe Hunio's empire ends the same way he ran it, violently, in the dark, and with nobody left who cares enough to ask questions. The luxury car drifts deeper and deeper into the black water below, sinking endlessly into the abyss, fading from view the same way it fades toward that like and subscribe button sitting right in front of you. Go ahead and smash it so Crimson can keep bringing you these recaps till part 2 drops. Stay dangerous out there.